Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the Sue Gray report into Downing Street parties for hopefully the last time before it's actually published, because there's been a couple of interesting developments. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, one thing's clear. Boris Johnson and his supporters are hiding behind the Gray inquiry, so they must think it will allow him to claim that he's been exonerated. People are taking this to mean that it will be a whitewash. However, on this occasion, that won't work. So that's why I don't think it will be a complete whitewash, and I'll explain why. A spectacular bit of news emerged a couple of days ago. Downing Street offered to ease the rules for funerals so that more people could attend the service of Prince Philip. Now this was, this was in May. The rules were going to be relaxed anyway a few weeks later. Why don't we make you a special case a little bit early, Your Majesty, they said. That's what they told the palace. The Queen refused. She is reported to have said that it would be unfair for her to have special treatment when others were also grieving in lockdown. Queen said that. One of the most privileged people in British society. She understood the impact it would have had on the public to be able to get away with the rules that were binding everyone else at that time. It would have been legal. The government were willing to make it legal, but the Queen understood that the rules were neither here nor there. It wouldn't have been fair. And that is why a whitewash of a Gray report wouldn't actually help Johnson. Even if it can try and claim that no rules were broken because Downing Street's a special case, or there were other loopholes that made it technically okay or whatever, it will make no difference to the public. This report isn't about avoiding legal responsibility, although Johnson doesn't want any of that either. Johnson's already got the police in his pocket. What this is about stemming the tide of public anger. And the public will not be impressed by a report written by someone, let's face it, that Johnson appointed, if it is a complete whitewash and totally exonerates him. So it can't do that exactly. But it also won't damn him either, because Johnson would be stupid to commission a report that did that. And also bear in mind, the report goes to Johnson before anyone else sees it. In fact, there's a bit of a hint that Johnson may already have it. I saw someone from Byline Times saying that Boris Johnson had been asked if he'd already received the report, or Downing Street was asked, and they refused to answer that question. So he's going to be sat on that report for several days before it gets published. So what will it do? Well, I discussed the ideas of constitutional legal expert David Alan Green a while ago. He had decided that it would probably work in a similar way to the Mueller report. Might not be as extensive, but a similar way. A collection of factual findings, but no real conclusion. And that makes the most sense. Gray is a barmaid. I mean, she's a permanent secretary, but her former profession was as a barmaid. She's not a former detective or a lawyer or a professor of constitutional affairs. She was trained to pull pints. And whatever skills she has acquired to make her impressive climb to the top of the civil service tree, she is not qualified to judge on any matters of law or ministerial standards. So her report cannot possibly conclude that anyone broke the law or didn't break the law, or that Boris Johnson broke the ministerial code or didn't break the ministerial code. And that is what it seemed clear to me Johnson wants. He just wants to be able to make a statement where he says, I've got this report now, and it didn't pull its punches. My goodness, absolutely firm and fair report. And there are clearly lessons to be learned because things were not done as they should have been done. And for that, I apologise again. But it does not say that I broke the rules, and it does not say that I broke the ministerial code. The inference being that therefore he didn't do either of those things. His MPs will then wait to see what is the impact of this attempt to draw a line under the affair on the public. Because remember, MPs don't care about what Boris Johnson's been up to. They only care about the fact that the public are going to take their votes away if it carries on like this. That's all they care about, the public mood. So they will wait to see what that public mood is before deciding to topple him, now or later. And news is emerging at the moment that Gray's report will be a limited account of the general issue. That's what I'm hearing at the moment from the Times, I think. In other words, So sometimes when you read reports, you'll see a report that goes to MPs. And MPs, of course, to be fair to them, cannot read every single report on everything they're to do. So there's summaries, right? So you get a report and you get a summary. What it sounds like we're going to get here is the summary without the report. So we're not going to get a detailed report, a blow-by-blow account of all these work events, or, parties as you and I would call them. What we're going to get is the summary. That's it. That's according to the Times, as I say. I've also heard that Johnson wants the report ready by Tuesday. As I say, if he's already got it, it can be, so that he can make a statement before PMQs. But there is no definite timetable. And I also noted in that Times report, it mentioned the end of next week. And that's consistent with what a few other reports have said as well. So who knows when it will come out. It was also revealed that Gray has seen the email from a senior civil servant to Johnson's principal private secretary, explaining their objections to the Bring Your Own Booze party and that it should be cancelled. Yet another piece of evidence to go with Dominic Cummings' claims that the Prime Minister knew that there was a party going on, that it was against the rules and that it shouldn't go ahead, and that he allowed it anyway. So what can we expect when the report is finally published? Well, in terms of Johnson's position, that depends on the behaviour of Tory MPs, and their behaviour will be partly determined by the reaction from the press and the public. But opposition MPs are likely to be ready to go in all guns blazing. So far, Johnson has battered away questions by saying that the Gray inquiry will answer them all. It will actually answer none of them. But let's consider what some of the questions that have been asked by various opposition leaders and other MPs have been. First, did Boris Johnson mislead Parliament? If he deliberately misled Parliament, he has to resign. So did he mislead Parliament when he said he knew nothing about the parties? The Gray report, especially if it's only a summary, will not even address this question. The fact of the matter is, we don't just have the word of Dominic Cummings, who is, let's be honest, almost as big a liar as Boris Johnson. Journalists have seen evidence that Boris Johnson's personal private secretary was emailed concerns about the party. Now, if Boris Johnson is going to claim that his secretary did not raise this issue with Johnson, then Johnson is saying two things. One, his secretary arranged this Bring Your Own Booze party, because he's the one who sent the email out, without Johnson's express permission. A serious accusation, sackable offence. Second, that the secretary deliberately concealed concerns about the legality and suitability of the party from the Prime Minister. Now, those would be two very serious accusations for a public servant. I would expect someone to make this point and ask who was lying, Johnson or Reynolds, his secretary. And if Johnson is saying that he wasn't lying, then he's saying Reynolds is lying. And if Reynolds is lying, why was he allowed to continue in post for so long after learning of this duplicity? Now, don't get me wrong, I strongly suspect Reynolds is going to be one of those who carries the can and is sacked. But why wouldn't it have happened sooner, when Boris Johnson found out about it? Second question, did the parties break the law? Sue Gray cannot draw any conclusions about this, so her findings would have to be passed on to the police. Now, the Met Police have consistently avoided any investigation on their part, largely, well, I say partly because they're in Boris Johnson's pocket, but largely because they've known about it all along. Their own officers were stationed outside Number 10, could not possibly have failed to hear party noise when it was going on in the garden. Some of the indoor ones, maybe. Some of the quieter outdoor ones, all right then. But the noisy ones outdoors that involve breaking a swing? No. Third, there will be the question of parties held in other departments. It's not just about 10 Downing Street, though they seem to have been the worst offenders. Other cabinet ministers have been implicated in rules-breaking social events in their departments. If Gray's report doesn't address those, and it won't, then the questions there will remain. And the fourth question is, when will the Prime Minister resign? See, he said to wait for the Gray report. Now, depending on what it looks like, there can be one of two responses from the opposition. If it contains no information on the key questions, it can be dismissed as a whitewash orchestrated by someone who was appointed by Johnson to cover up his misdeeds. It can also be pointed out that when other people are being investigated for wrongdoing, they don't get to pick the people who do the investigating. They could also ask questions about Sue Gray, what she already knew about the parties. She works in the Cabinet Office. Now, unless she is as thick as mince, it is inconceivable that she would not have been aware of at least some of these parties And if MPs do not feel that the report answers their questions, it's simplicity itself to discredit the author as not only Johnson's stooge, but someone who could potentially be heavily implicated in the wrongdoing herself. And if her report isn't a complete whitewash, if it does detail, even if not specific examples of social events, but it makes it clear that these happened and that they should not have happened, that they were clearly against the rules, without trying to comment on the legal position, because you can't, then the question will turn back to Johnson. This wasn't just one or two events that blurred the lines between work and socialising. This was a regular culture of social events on government property, paid for largely from the public purse, and in breach of the very rules that Downing Street produced. No matter how you try and spin that, Boris Johnson failed to exercise the sort of leadership that the country expects. Doesn't matter whether you think he was stupid or a liar. Either trait should disqualify him from holding the highest office. Personally, I would like to see the reports before Wednesday, because until this report comes out, opposition leaders have little choice but to do what they did last week, keep heaping the pressure on Johnson over the scandal, maybe throw in another volley on government failure like Starmer did with energy prices. When the report comes out, there has to be one more PMQs where this is hammered before they can move on to other failures of policy. So if the report comes out after next Wednesday, that means we've got at least 2 more PMQs where this is like the sole focus. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.